Cool.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Tellor community call, August 10th. Welcome everyone. Yeah, it's a nice packed house today. We got a lot of people on. We're getting more employees, so it adds to the community call. And then, but for those watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. As far as the big announcements, today we have Sean who will be presenting something on the Teller brand. I'll try not to take too much time away from him, but just to get some quick announcements out there. If you are a miner, I'm sure almost all of you are following on Discord, but we've had dispute issues over the past 2 weeks, and we think we found like a pretty good kind of compromise and solution as far as removing a lot of the invalid IDs and just we're not basically. We've had some issues over the past 2 weeks. What was happening was we support like 60 price feeds and most of them aren't used. There was like some really obscure ones in there, and people were just monitoring for like whenever the APIs would shut down. So like a good example was like the 0x BNB price, and it got delisted from Binance, but we weren't up to date on as far as like updating, hey, it's no longer valid. They shut down their API or froze it. And then it caused the miner to submit some bad values. It would like nobody's using it, nobody's ever requested it, but somebody decided to then tip it so that way other people automatically sent the price updates for it, and then they got slashed. It's a bad thing. We definitely need to add in some better monitoring on our parts, but to make it so the miner is not just this. It shouldn't be a game about trying to find bugs in the code and getting other people and slashing other people. Like that's not how we want people making money on Tellor. We want you guys competing in a fair manner to actually do something useful, like put value on chain, not slash and steal each other's coins. So if you see any other issues, we're working to fix it. We're working to get it to a nice stable version as we start building up the Tellor X version of what will be the reporter. So a lot going on. Definitely just stay tuned there. Other things with the reporter, we had a new TIP. We now support the ETH JPY price. Somebody requested that. It's in the most recent Tellor release, or if you have a custom build, just make sure you add it in. It's ID 59, relatively simple one. It's pretty simple what it is. It's Ethereum in yen. So go pull it in, and we're excited to see what it's used for. Other announcements, maybe Mike has some. I think also the Bounties page should be going live sometime this week. So if you're interested in doing something for some TRB, hit us up. We're gonna post a bunch of good ones. If you also have ideas, things that we could build, let us know. We'll add it in the list. A lot of times we used to have a Bounties page and we didn't really have the best sort of interaction with it. So we decided, Josh did some really great work to make it a little bit friendlier and a little bit more accessible. So yeah, let us know what you guys think about it. Anything we can add to make it better and get kind of the whole community going. So Mike, anything on your end?
Nope, no further announcements. I was going to add the Bounties thing, but you got it.
Okay. And I'd say Discord things going well. Everyone thumbs up on that.
Yeah.
Spuddy's a big fan. So
Big fan.
Yeah, we're chatting a lot more on Discord now out in the public space, and we've been doing a really good job of not keeping our conversations private. So keep it up, guys. Do great. So yeah, do we have questions today too? We'll do those at the end, Mike, or
maybe it'll make more sense to just there's just a couple. We could just burn through them real quick and then give the rest of the time to Sean.
Yeah, not that we have any time limit, Sean, so don't feel rushed.
Yeah. There's a couple in here worth addressing. One is how close are we to the release of Tellor X?
That one's easy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're sending it off for an audit September 1st, and then usually an audit, they'll get back with their first changes in 2 weeks, and then we'll make changes, and then they'll send it back usually like a month and a half. Then we'll deploy it on test nets, test it for 2 weeks to a month, and then try to deploy it on mainnet. So like optimistically, end of October, realistically, probably mid-November. So
Cool. Yep, we'll keep you guys posted. You know our deal with giving specific dates. We don't do them because they're just, it's hard to be completely accurate with them. So our sort of policy is to just be transparent as we can on a weekly basis with you guys to let you know how things are going and what our goals are around that. And we think that's more accurate and more honest. So the next one is, recently some disputed values caused some miners to lose their tokens. How can you deal with it? Do you have anything more to touch on about the disputed values?
yeah, I mean, it sucks for people that lost money. We're still kind of in contact with a lot of those people. We're working on kind of addressing the base issues. But that's kind of it. If you're one of the earlier miners, if you're thinking about getting mining and thing or anything like that, just know it is risky. We're trying to solve some of these issues, but it's a work in progress. And if you're one of the bigger miners in the space, like, help us out. There's a lot of rewards flowing through these systems, so we definitely need everyone's help making it kind of work so nobody loses money.
Next one is, when will OKX and Gate migrate to the new contract? Are you in contact with them?
OKX is migrated.
Yep, they're fully done.
We're done. They have the tokens. If they aren't giving you access to the tokens, that's on them. And Gate, I have no idea. We've reached out to them and they don't contact us. So
yeah. So
like, who is using Gate.io? I don't know.
People do.
Yeah.
And that's it. The next question's about the price, not being about happy about the price, but there's nothing we can do about that. So
Cool.
stay strong out there. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Without further ado, Sean, you all ready?
Yep, I'm all ready. Let me try
Cool.
to share the screen really quick. Let me get enabled for sharing.
You have to enable him, right?
Whoever the host is.
That's right. I have the power. All right, try now.
Can you guys see that now? Perfect. All right. I guess we'll just jump into it. So yeah, this is Tellor marketing plan. So like what we're doing to get out there, communicate our vision, how we can work with new projects, and overall just growing Tellor in the Oracle. So our goal is to build the most unstoppable Oracle in DeFi. We want to make that clear, and we're excited about that. So what we'll be going over today, these are the 4 parts of the overall marketing plan, but the first part, the brand strategy, is what we'll be covering. So basically, who is Tellor? How do we talk about ourselves? What audiences are we serving? That's the stuff that we'll go through. So just for some context and key insights, and this is generally about blockchain and DeFi, so not particularly focused on Tellor, but it does sort of affect how we, talk about things and market ourselves. So the core thesis of blockchain is just enabling anonymous and collective community to support a digital economy. And that's all built on a digitally native infrastructure. And the big point is that it's free from authority and intermediaries. So just having that up there as context. And then the 4 key points just sort of support that and get a little more specific on blockchain itself. So we're building stuff. Blockchain is still young and evolving. That's a key insight to have. Also, most projects face the trilemma, which is that trade-off between security, speed, and decentralization. And there's also a sort of a tension between consensus and control. So how do you build something that lasts, but also reflects that idea of decentralization? And then DeFi is also building bridges to the real world. So with that all as background, this is sort of what we focused on for Tellor and the brand. So move on to the brand scope. So this is where in the world of DeFi that oracles and also Tellor fit. So at the top layer, we have applications. And those are just common projects that you see out there. Oracles connect those with data. So very much right in the center of like the toolkit and stack that applications need. And then also connecting to layer 2, and then all the way down to the infrastructure and base layer. So that's just to give a visual of like where in the world oracles and Tellor specifically fit. So just to give that visual for everyone. So within the Oracle category specifically, we really just wanted to put this up to position ourselves in where we fit on those two axes. So the trade-off, which is basically the Oracle problem, the trade-off between consensus and authority, and also security and speed. So we know there's a lot of competitors out there. They offer different things, different setups. They've designed their oracles in different ways, but we definitely feel like between consensus and security, that we really offer like the sort of unmatched oracle in the category.
By the way, did you come up with this?
Yeah, this was like, I mean, the team, like
Okay.
everyone had ideas, like what could we put on the axes, like.
Well,
what are
it's
some
cool.
examples
It's
we could-
basically the trilemma, you know,
Yeah.
where you would place it somewhere in the trilemma, but you turned it into 4 corners instead.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah, any other comments on the other guys in here? I know we have, there's just the trade-off, you know, like, so what do we want to build? And then we have to build it, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure they would all disagree. It would be, you know, somehow somehow you're fast and secure and decentralized all at the same time is what they would say. You know, they're just better coders, and yeah. But no, it makes it look good.
Yeah, I mean, we believe in that, and that's what we're building, so.
Mhm.
So next is the Tellor vision and sort of how we see the world. So this is very much from Tellor's perspective. So defining our audience, this is Tellor's audience. So we have 3 primary people that we're speaking to and working with. So those are DeFi builders, data reporters, and also TRB holders. And then I'll also add, because it's a really important part of the ecosystem, is the developers that are building it and helping us with that. So the community at large, that's another key audience. But for this, we've just identified those 3 ones. So I'll talk with DeFi builders first. Their pain is that they need an accurate, reliable source of data for the apps that they're building. That's pretty straightforward. They want to build a great project, but they need something that's secure and trustless, especially with off-chain data. So we feel that we can offer that. That's our target outcome. And that's really what we're building Tellor for. So as the first one. And then the data reporters. So we obviously have those conversations going back and forth in the community. They want to be fairly rewarded for providing that data. So we offer token rewards and hopefully easy setup and maintenance. And then anyone can contribute. So that's how we want to build Tellor, and just overall contributes to high quality data on the blockchain. And then third, so we know TRB holders. There's pain out there, crypto is volatile. So people have lost money obviously holding tokens in many projects. But we want, their motivations are for long-term price returns. So what we do with the marketing is that we want to just be clear and transparent on tokenomics and governance. So it's not like we're pumping, or it's not like we're doing anything like that, but we just want to be clear about the utility of the token, how it works with the project. So just, yeah, long-term value there. So for Tellor positioning, which is how we position ourselves in the world, just an overall guiding narrative. And this isn't like, a tagline or anything, but we just want to have the most unstoppable data for a more open economy. So that's the guiding narrative. And then with this, what's on the page here, breaks down into a few more secondary messages which just support that point. So your project is only as decentralized as your data. That's a big thing we hear and talk about. We believe we want consensus to drive the truth in your data. So not necessarily one source, and plug in the right data, whatever you're building. So Tellor has the flexibility to offer, flexible data depending on your project. And then some of the proof points just on that. So DeFi and blockchain depends on oracles to supply real world data. So we feel we've built that data community that offers complete censorship resistance. And then with letting consensus drive the truth in your data, we think proprietary APIs just give too much risk, too much security risk, regulatory risk. So that's why Tellor has clear staking and dispute mechanisms, which meets those higher standards of consensus and decentralization.
And just to add in like the voting aspect of it, so if there's a dispute, then the whole network, every TRB holder has a say, has a voice in was that piece of data good or not. So it's like you said, it's consensus driven truth. Our network gets to decide what we believe is true or not.
Yep. So then with the right data, and this is, for the DeFi projects that are building out there, we're flexible on the data type. And obviously we have features in the Oracle that incentivize data reporters to refresh data and all that. So that's built into the Oracle. And so these are just the main positioning points that we have, and that these are definitely unique versus others in the space.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know if you guys talked about it at all, but these are like really almost Oracle specific positioning points, like comparing us to those other people, I think it may be even like a cause for another call or something, but what is do we set up also like a positioning for the space at large? I think it's coming to light recently, especially with all the regulation talk on Twitter, and how do you position, what's the Tellor position in general on regulations? Do we have one? Do we need one? What's the general, whenever it comes to, right now we're only on Ethereum, but we're looking at different chains. Is there any sort of positioning we would, do we have to align with the chains we're on? Do we have to, how does that work? Or is it sort of just this thing that other people can go and deploy on other, because that's like Chainlink made their case, well, we're decentralized Oracle networks, anybody can set them up, which is of course bullshit. But moving beyond that, it's if you actually were serious about it, then if anybody can set them up, then what is truth? Is it just the little community you decide it is? Because that we were just talking about the Tellor community deciding truth. Would there be disparate communities? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's really tough. How maybe we do want to stay much more Oracle specific, because I know you obviously you can be one of those super woke companies, say that you have all of your employees and everyone holding your coin completely aligned on every single issue. And if you deviate, then you're shunned from the community, and you don't want that. But then, do you want to speak out about, say other evils or potential problems in the space as a large? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to go next. Yeah, this is definitely for the Oracle space and Tellor positioning within it. I think those are relevant topics that, we have stances on, we
Right.
feel one way or the other that we can put into this.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the conversation we were having this morning, Sean, about the parachute contract, and this is another subject, but you guys will hear much more about it tomorrow. But just the idea, we've talked about admin keys in the past, and just how does that fit into the larger positioning in the ecosystem of projects that are more regulatory resistant, or still have admin keys and still have, still run by very centralized corporations, VCs, that have a lot of stake in these projects, and that can be problematic for a variety of reasons. And where does Tellor fit into that? How are we different? It's a whole set of storylines that we think is a narrative that's worth telling. And so we just had a long conversation about it this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth doing.
Yep. And like the way to use this positioning too, like in the bottom at the gray, you may see it, you may not. It says supporting content. So like given these positioning points, like what content are we writing? And that's the stuff that we're going to be putting out. For example, that piece on the parachute smart contract this week. So yeah, that's a great point. And this, like, we live this stuff, we can support it. We have examples. That's how we build Tellor. So
Yep.
And so Tele-Brand Architecture, this tells us what sort of how Tellor as an entity or project is in the different product services that we have. So most people, in the community know Tellor. So that's the big green box as what they have a relationship with. And then they may use, for example, different products. They're not necessarily products, but like, they might hold tributes. So the token or fellowship, for example. So that just sort of organizes everything and how it builds up into Tellor as a whole. And so voice and tone. So that's sort of how we are in the marketplace, but also how we sound is also really important to identify and talk about. So our goal overall is just to be approachable, friendly, and simplify complicated ideas. We know that there's a lot of confusing topics out there. There may be jargon that's used. So for us, that means we just want to be factual, visual, and optimistic. So factual, like precise and accurate. We're not going to be misleading with, confusing ideas. That also means open and transparent, so that, we do these calls, we're open and transparent in the community. Also visual. So we want to just bring Tellor and Oracle and blockchain to life. Definitely with illustrations, just descriptive language. There's a ton of innovation happening. So that's what we want to bring to life. And then on the optimistic side, that potential is big just for the space in general. So we're all about capturing sort of a positive outlook for that. We don't need, no other reason to be anything other than that. So then the next 3 slides are basically messaging that we have. So this is stuff you'll see out in public or out, on like a community channel. This is just the consistent way that we talk about Tellor. So I'll go through the one-liner, but there's also a few sentences and there's also a longer one. But Tellor is the most secure, unstoppable, decentralized Oracle for smart contracts that need high-value off-chain data. So pretty clean. but the next two are a little longer. So I don't know if it's worth reading them out loud, but this is just stuff that comes out, you know, in different places in public. And then brand partnerships. So this comes up a lot, especially in crypto. But Tellor wants to unite brands with similar goals and visions to us. Broadly, there's 4 ways that people do it. So brand sponsorships, brand licensing. On the brand sponsorship side, that's definitely Tellor and where we're active quite a bit. So supporting events or activities that really build, you know, blockchain and oracles. So we're super focused on that, and we have some more coming out in the next couple months. And then the other side of that is brand building. So a lot of this happens in crypto, some of it good, some of it bad. We believe in like the co-branding aspect. So uniting different projects on a long-term strategy and synergy. That's sort of in contrast to co-promotions, which is just sort of a short-term tactical, could be incentive-based, you know, so that could be the reason behind the co-promotion, but we really believe in like that co-branding, which unites everything that we believe in. So that's the partners that we work with and seek out. I think that's the last slide.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big question that comes to my mind is like, how do you sort of, like, this was great, first of all, Sean. Thanks for putting it all together, you know, but how do we like drive it into action, you know, on that front, you know, because it's like, it all sounds really good, you know, like a great example would be like a really easy one to go after would be like the tone one. You know, we should all be optimistic, and we should all be, you know, positive in the space, and really just a good messengers out there. But then, you know, like they tell you that in life in general, and then like you tend to, you know, like I know myself, you tend to be generally really, like I can be really sarcastic and cynical about especially the space at large. And then, you know, like how do we almost foster the culture of calling each other out on it and actually pushing it forward, without it just sort of being, you know, because like every single person in the space would say like, we want to be great in the space and be nice, and you know, nobody would say the like maybe a few would say the opposite, but yeah.
No, I believe in that too, like checking ourselves and like uniting the voice of Tellor as a whole. I mean, it's sort of different. The brand voice is a little different than like the individuals, any of us, like individually, obviously. So the Tellor brand voice as a whole, that can show up in things like, you know, the content, the docs, the website, everything that's coming out. That's sort of where that comes to life. I think that's the quickest, easiest example. But again, if it should follow that, you know, because that's sort of what we've set out that is important to us. But if it has to change, this is an evolving thing. It's always evolving. So we can definitely change with it.
Yeah.
No, sort of the groundwork, to like everything.
But yeah, I mean, and on that, like, I've thought like, how much of a voice should Tellor have? You know, like with regards to, you know, Tellor's not a person. You know, that's like you see this a lot in the corporate world, as far as like corporations having voices and votes and things like that. And it almost like separates out the humanity in it all. Like whenever you're interacting with a DAO or you know, just this faceless entity that, oh, you lost your money to Tellor. You know, like it's weird. You know, like how much of, obviously there's a space to, you want the brand to mean and be recognizable, and it holds, you know, like same with like, you can think of Ethereum, like you have a thought whenever you think of Ethereum, but then like Vitalik doesn't speak on Ethereum's behalf, if that makes sense ever. Like, you know, he's like his own, the views are all of his own. Like how much of that do we want to be speaking on our own versus speaking through Tellor and having a united voice? I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's
think we're transitioning, like this is we've just begun. And once we get rid of the admin key, and then we start moving towards TellorX, and then moving more to a DAO-like structure as a company, we're gonna have to transition into that. It's gonna be interesting. Like right now we do have some control over what our tone is. Up until now, like an example of that is we've been focused on the voice we don't want to have, which is we don't want to speak from a place of hype and over exaggerate things, and then our stance on announcing partnerships. That's all part of the voice that we've avoided having, and it's a voice that is very loud in the normal crypto space, and so we actively have chosen to have a more reserved, tech focused voice. And I think establishing, it's good that we've had that control because it's all coming from our team, that we could establish that foundation of like the community is a tech focused community, and as we grew from just a couple hundred followers to where we're at now, you'd hope that the community members have gotten used to that and then sort of embracing those ideals, and so that when we get to the point where we sort of lean back and lean more on them, that they sort of share that with us and sort of take the reins forward, and also speak from that voice. But the scary thing is that might all change, and it's exciting and scary. Like it will take on a life of its own. The Teller community will have
Yeah.
maybe it won't be a unified voice. Maybe it'll just be a very decentralized and diverse voice, which is also really cool. But
Well, because it can kind of change over time too. You
yeah,
see, like whether it's Ethereum, you have like Vitalik, which is a very tech focused. You would say he's a voice that we would kind of anyone would kind of strive for. He's great in the space.
yes,
But then you have a lot of like maximalists who are just toxic on another level of the same way Bitcoiners are a lot of times, and like that. So like the space, I guess, maybe as Teller grows, like it does sort of fall into multiple different camps. But yeah, I think like early on, like I guess like how do you kickstart that in the right direction would be
yeah,
yeah, and it's about that community. Like even like I feel like communities want to identify with something that fits with what they think, even if it's like an entity or a project like Teller. So that's what really we want to emphasize through Teller with the community. And then yeah, it is very much up to the community how it evolves.
yeah. We hope that like the groundwork we're doing now by like identifying a voice that we think fits with our ethos, that we will attract those type of individuals that are drawn to that sort of thing, and then the community will be, you would hope, largely cut from that ilk, and so that we could sort of set it on the right path when we sort of launch the DAO, so to speak. So, but yep, Nick, you'll still be able to be cynical and
sure. Yeah, I mean,
sarcastic all you want.
well, but at the same time, like I want you guys to call me out on it too. Like I can say like thing in public, like I know Tally's posted things on Twitter. He calls out some toxic things in the space on Twitter, and it's like I think that's cool. I don't know if Tally, you're muted, but yeah, if you want to like chime in, like on I'm sure you have like a view on the topic as far as there's like, because it can also be like there's always like that fine line of like humor and like awful.
Mark.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
like
be like, and maybe you relate to this, Nick, on your personal account, as you like to be like ideological. Like it's tough to there's like a certain degree of cynicism that I want to express on the internet, to be like critical of like a space that can sort of like have a mind of its own. But on the other hand, like the internet is immutable, and like I want to be conscious of like my public profile and like how like inspirational versus like cynical I'd want to be as a figure who has their own opinion, or like how much to even express on the internet in general.
Yep.
yeah. No, I mean it's tough, as even like with Teller, like a lot of the ideas that we may focus on as Teller like may be wrong and awful, and now they're in writing forever. But who knows? But Anybody else have Spuddy thoughts? You unmuted.
Yeah, because I struggle with it. Yeah, sorry. No, I really struggle with, not making negative comments about things that other tokens or not other tokens, but things that other teams do. But because I don't want to alienate people from their community who might be interested in Tellor. So I just hold my tongue now, mostly.
But that goes back to the original question, like, should you, you were free to speak the way you always spoke before you were an official member of the team, and then you became official member of the team, and it was like, oh, do I need to change my voice to be more of like an official Tellor voice? And it just goes back to that open question that we're sort of talking about right now. It's like, well, is the official Tellor voice even a thing, or is it just a conglomeration of individuals, And I think that's the direction it's going to end up going, and I think that's a good thing. But I just to repeat myself one last time, I think it does serve a good purpose to establish a factual, non-hype focused, optimistic, optimistic voice for Tellor, and
Yeah.
just sort of attract those individuals and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's not productive for me to just keep picking on Chainlink on Twitter. It's really not.
Yes, it is.
So
I think an
Nah.
important thing too that I'm seeing a lot in the DAO world is like a big pain point is early on in DAOs, there's not enough like momentum to have it move any which way. So I think that's why you see like a lot, like even the Tellor core team, it's important to have some kind of momentum just to push the network and give it life, and then it'll take that network effect down the road. But there's an importance of having some kind of momentum, and I don't know if it's as important as what momentum that is as much as just having that momentum itself.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always like to use the example like in Ethereum, like, like Consensus funded everyone early on. You had one of the founders who had a bunch of money, and they had 50 companies who they were paying all the salaries for. And it's what bootstrapped Ethereum. They built the core tools, most of them, half of them never made any money.
Right.
Doesn't matter, but it kickstarted it. And, like, how do we, we're kind of the kickstarters of this community, and we want to slowly grow it to the point that it moves on its own, but then you want it to move on its own in kind of a good direction. That's why I think like Ethereum really worked out with Consensus, because they weren't building things for like, they did later on, it got into the blockchain consulting world or the going after traditional banks and things like that. But originally it was, these art projects and these really decentralized focused projects that may have not gone anywhere, but it set the foundation for what Ethereum would be used for. And I think, yeah, that's our projects now. These are the base, the projects that are starting to use us. So anyway.
Yep, and we'll just have to, and at some point we'll just be influencers, not to use that word like, I know it's got a whole different meaning nowadays,
We
but
will not, Mike. This is
yeah, not those type of influencers, but even just like the conversation of like, what is truth? Like we'll have, we'll be able to vote on that and sort of make a case with our vote, on what we view is the right way to move in a dispute, right? Which might differ, might be something that a lot of the community is split on. So we'll be able to influence things that way as well.
yeah.
Fun times. These are really fun issues or opportunities to wrestle with. This is the kind of stuff that drives us, because we're building something where we have these topics to wrestle with.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Well, anybody else have anything? Owen, Chris?
I just think it's super helpful when, just y'all are kind of touching on this, just as it goes more towards the decentralized, once the admin keys are gone, that kind of thing. It kind of is just on everyone, like Spuddy and whatnot is talking about like, oh, like I just want to like hold my tongue, but isn't it kind of like we need to be more like, answering like the basic questions? I mean, like I'm a new hire and I come like on this issue a lot, especially when I'm explaining like, what Tellor does, within the space and whatnot. And for a lot of people, it's just like the immediate things like they want to know are like, yeah, how does like Tellor, like give me like one line about like how Tellor stands out from like chain link and all these other things. Like a lot of people just don't know that kind of stuff. So if like everyone, starts going like silent and whatnot, it's just like the information's not out there. And
Yeah,
so-
well, I think Spuddy just means like Spuddy's our Telegram moderator too.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's just like helpful when y'all are,
Yeah, maybe we should do rotations. You guys can all take turns being Telegram moderators and just get
answering all the questions.
Yeah, you'll get really good at answering basic questions.
But just like you could look at our company and everybody that works here as as a small aspect of our larger community, but it's like a microcosm of it. And as we're growing as a company, we saw the need to have like our messaging be something that we are all sort of on the same page about, which is the other aspect of this work that Sean has been putting together, is that we can all talk about Tellor in a similar fashion. We all know what our sort of our mission and vision is, and why we do things the way we do things, and what it means. And that's really useful for our company, but it's the exact same thing for the larger community, is that these materials are going to be open for everybody, we hope, and that that our whole community can start speaking with a relatively unified voice. Not to get back into the topic of we're going to have diverse opinions about the thing, but like at least everybody is really clear and has access to the information that allows them to talk about Tellor. So
Cool. Anyway, this was a great call. Super fun. Anybody else? Or put anybody on the spot, or we don't need to. Cool. Thanks.
Computer died, but did you guys introduce Lauren?
We're gonna do that next week. We didn't know it was her first day, but
who's this Lauren person?
Yeah.
There is no Lauren there.
She's over here.
Sorry.
Yeah, Lauren is our new employee. We'll give her the formal new employee intro next week. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Talk to you guys next week.
All right.
See you.
See ya.
All right. Thanks.